Thank you, Otto. Last year, I was at a strategic meeting with the top management. So we had 2 C-level executives from our company. The rest of the meeting was C-level -1. And we were talking about like data strategy, how we make use of the data. And one agenda point was about the implementation of data governance, how important is it to bring business ownership, and that means also defining actually what certain aspects of the data mean. And Gregor, that's why I was also thinking, oh, that sounds very good. That's exactly what we're talking about. Well, then there was one question, and then we're back to the elephant in the room, which is AI. One question from a participant, they said, Max, so I understand, that costs us a lot of work, especially my team. But, given that there's going to be AI in the future, can we not just pause that for like a year or 2, and then in 2 years, AI is going to fix all that and just generates all that for us? And my answer was no. And why was it not? Because we cannot just rely on technology to fix our problems. I think you would say alignment problems, which is really a term I could really relate to. My name, thank you Otto for the introduction, is Maximilian Kerk. I'm VP and the head of data and AI at Lidl. And today I want to talk to you about why it is important to have an alignment with the business and not only just talk about technology. Just brief intro of myself. So I do have a background in computer science, bachelor there, and also in economics. So I did a bachelor and a master, and also a PhD in economics. And I worked both as a software architect or software developer in my early career. So the older of you maybe know Java Enterprise Beans. That was what I was first working on. And then I switched a bit more into the business side and the finance side. I worked as a data analyst at Commerzbank, and then I was in consulting, and there we're consulting on digital finance, so projects to digitalize the finance function of companies. And then, almost 7 years ago, I moved to Lidl. And as I think this is a European conference, there's probably none of you that lives in Europe, little asterisk here, that does not have a Lidl around the corner. So, and that's the reason why we have more than 12,000 stores. So I'm not gonna broadly introduce Europe. Lidl, we're the market leader in retail in Europe. And as I said, are currently operating stores in 31 countries. And also, as you already said, Lidl is part of the Schwarz Group. So it's not only Lidl, of course, we're the strongest brand in the group, and we're also proud of that. But we also have our sister retail brand, Kaufland. And I think more importantly, also our newly founded digitalization brand, which is Schwarz Digits, that also serves all our digital needs and especially all our IT needs within the group, but also on the mission of digital sovereignty. And I think this is an important topic given the recent political events. We also have launched our internal cloud, StackIt, as a product to the market. And that was also then reason to found our brand, Schwarz Digits. But back to my topic. So I want to talk about data strategy, and then the question is, how does a data strategy arise, or how does the need for a data strategy arise? And if I'm looking at the Gartner opportunity radar or AI opportunity radar for retail, one of the things that was mentioned there, which is a top opportunity, is the digitalization of the supply chain. And there you have topics like replenishment planning, you do have demand forecasting, inventory optimization, and resource planning. And these are fancy use cases and nice use cases, and use cases we are actually doing. But these use cases do heavily rely on data, as basically is every use case in the domain of big data or AI. And what we typically see is when we start this use case and we look into it, we see, oh, there is some data missing here in our inventory. So we always have the permanent problem of missing data. And I cannot imagine anyone that's in the business side that never had that problem, or it doesn't occur anywhere. So there is this problem, and then you, from the business side, and you speak to the executives, they say, okay, we hear all the time in our projects, we're missing data, there's some problem with the data, we do need a data strategy. Like, this is one of the things we have to work on. We need a strategy how to handle data. And then what happens in an organization, who do we ask for data strategy? You say, oh, well, data strategy, that sounds like data, that sounds computers sound like IT. We go to our IT department, to our CIO, and say, we need a data strategy. And I'm attacked by a fly. And I'm not saying this is wrong, I'm not saying this is wrong, that you ask the CIO for a data strategy, but it's very important how to execute it. And if you go to the IT department and the CIO says, okay, we'll build a data strategy, they do it and they ask their team and they approach this from what they're good at and what's their focus. And that's running the IT, that's using technology, that's making use of technology. And so when they come up with their data strategy, it's probably going to look something like this, maybe a different form, maybe a triangle, or I think like houses are also very fancy and en vogue. Also using houses for building or for setting or illustrating a strategy. And they're very proud of it. Say, okay, so this is our data strategy. That is how we approach the data problems. And then we have tactics and uses that we also heard this morning of, so we have to build a data model, we have to get compliance, we have to fill our data catalog. But this is all from a very technical or from a very IT-driven standpoint. And as I said, going back 2 steps, this is what we ask. We ask the IT to build this data strategy. And then they're very proud, we're very proud as an IT to say, okay, so this is our data strategy. And then we present it to the CIO presents it in the board, and everyone says, yeah, okay, sounds technical, fancy, let's do it. And you bring that data strategy to a business department, and I say, okay, look, this is our fancy data strategy. That's how we're going to solve all your data problems. And then the business department says, okay, but I just need all my data available all the time, 24/7, whenever I want it. And then you look at your data strategy and say, yeah, that's good, but this is not realistic. So what we should do is we should focus on the use cases, and then by use case we build we can build the database. And, is this approach wrong? No, I don't say it's wrong. This is a good approach, approaching your needs, just, cutting the elephant into different slices and start, okay, we're building on what we have and look at the use cases and prioritize our use cases. But is it enough from my standpoint? And then I say no. It's not enough because it is not on the right level of abstraction, So this is a very operational approach, So we're looking at different use cases. We're going to start small, on the small topics. Maybe it is technical, but it's definitely not strategical. And what was our goal? Our goal was to build a data strategy, a strategy, how to approach it strategically. And then the question is actually, what I also occur, if you ask people, give me a definition, and then we're again on, what do actually terms mean? And for me, data strategy doesn't mean that. Strategy is, and I ask Copilot, what is actually a strategy? And the strategy has 2 important ingredients. The first, it's on the left-hand side. The first is a goal, So what do we actually want to achieve? And if we just build an architecture build with some other components, we're not specifying our goal. So we really need to specify in our strategy what is our goal, what we want to achieve. And then the second important component of a strategy is a plan of action. So what actually we want to do to reach that goal. And these are 2 very important components of a strategy that I've in the past, if I've seen data strategies or AI strategies or data science strategies, if we go back a few years, they are often missing that, or it is very, very fuzzy and not related to our business goals. And that's also what you said in the morning. Otto, I wrote down a quote. It's like serving and supporting at least one of these goals. And so if we cannot make it clear with our strategy, how our data strategy is serving and supporting at least one of our business goals, then we already failed here. And then I come back to you, Gregor. It's like the important thing is the alignment, so it has to be aligned, or as I said, it has to relate to something. So it has to relate to the business, and ideally, and that's the level of abstraction I'm talking about, ideally to our top management, because that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about in these words. And if you talk to like a C-level executive, they're not interested in some AI use case, and might it be in their domain supply chain, what they're responsible for. They're interested in the terms they're talking about. And where do they write these terms down that they're talking about? And that is the corporate strategy, of course. So what is very important to build a good data strategy, from my point of view, is aligning it to the corporate strategy here. So to really make sure, we have a clear link between the corporate strategy and our data strategy, and ideally use the same words here. So make this connection, this link between your data strategy and the corporate strategy explicit, and not just like implicit, because implicit is, that's what I'm aligned to. And also like your picture with the different speaking bubbles, and everyone has a different shape in their mind. If you make it implicit and you leave that implicit, it is hard. It's probably not gonna link. So you have to, they use the word optimizing our supply chain, then you have to and this is the main driver, one of the main strategic fields in your corporate strategy. You have to make, at least in the beginning of your data strategy, a link to that, and also link it explicitly with the same words in your data strategy, and make clear how your data strategy is supporting this overall goal of the company. So that's why I say, you have to start top down. So, and that is also why this use case idea is a nice idea on the operational tactical level, but on a strategic level, in my point of view, it's the wrong idea. You have to start top down. You see, okay, so what are the top priorities of our business? And I dare you, no one in their corporate strategy is going to have written something, we need better data. I doubt it. Maybe one or two, but I really doubt it. So they're going to say, we need to increase revenue, we need to increase our market share, we need to increase customer satisfaction in this and this sector. So, and make here, that's the point where you start. Okay, so you have to break it down in strategic fields. Ideally, your corporate strategy starts with, like an overall bold statement, and then also breaks it down in strategic fields. And that is the point where you can also actually attach yourself. So how does your data strategy support these strategic fields or strategic fields of actions? And if you have that, then you can make it relatable. And then you can build all what you build later on. What I've shown in this, like a bit more like, it's not necessarily like an overall architecture of your data landscape. But no one outside the IT is going to be interested in your fancy-looking architecture picture. You just need to make sure you know how to relate to these strategic fields. And once you have that, then you can break it down and say, okay, so what are the strategic fields and what is the fields of action? And if I come back into the definition of a strategy, the actions that you actually want to do with your data strategy, how do they support these strategic fields of action of your corporate strategy? And with that, you can compile your data strategy. And then once you have your data strategy compiled and you have your goal, and your goal is aligned to the corporate strategy, and you have the actions you want to take to build this data strategy or this data landscape you want to build, then you can start, operationalizing it. And then you can can talk about, like, how do we get things in the data catalog? Do we need a different tool? How do we implement it? And then you can speak technology or about it at the tech level. And that is also, when we come like with our partner and the StackIt, which is part of the Schwarz Digits. Schwarz Digits is our internal, you would call it brand. We call it in German, we call it Sparte, or maybe a division that's really focused on bringing the digital technology first, of course, towards our internal customers, so Lidl and Kaufland, but also offering it also on the market, StackIt. And there we do have the data and AI platform that we're using internally. Not all of it, not all components, and of course not all use cases, because of course we don't want to, give out and that's also very important to me as I'm representative of Lidl. Of course, we build, competitive advantages in our AI use cases that we actually have in production. So we're not going to roll out all of these, but the basis, the platform, and the components that are generic and not specific to Lidl are also available to customers via our brand StackIt. So and then I come to like a favorite citation, no, not a plane. A favorite quote that I have here, and that is, every business is a technology business, some just don't know it. And I really like to bring that quote also in presentations when I'm speaking to the business, to our markets. And what does it mean for me? So we have to think technology when we are thinking about changing our business, achieving our business goals. So that means that we cannot just define in an empty space what are our business goals, how we are going to implement our processes, and then just throw over a set of requirements to the IT or to the tech and say, okay, just please do it exactly as we do it. In the case of AI, now it's very important, to not specify in your corporate strategy something like, we use AI to solve all our data governance problems, because coming back to my initial statement, that's not going to fly. But we have to, while defining it, also see what is possible and what actually can we achieve. But I also find this important from the other side, also to see from a technological perspective, is we also do have to think business. So, it's not just this translation, we're like often in the past, you have these roles of, we're translating between the business and the IT. And I do not think this is the right role. We do have to understand both sides, and you have to think both sides. So also, as an IT leader, as a CIO, you have to be part of the strategic meetings and also to really shape the strategy and also influence your organization to say, okay, what is possible and what is also necessary to build with data. And lastly, that's it basically. So for you to sum up in like 3 points that I think are very important is for me. So, a strategy or data strategy for me is more than just a use case portfolio and then some alignment or IT alignment. And secondly, as I already pointed out, the corporate strategy gives the direction, and we really have to be top down here. You really have to use the corporate strategy, and then from there derive our data strategy. And lastly, and I hope this is also something you can relate to, business ownership is crucial, and it has to be anchored in your data strategy. If you do not have business ownership of your data, if the business says, well, data, that's IT, this is computers, this is a database, this is IT, forget it. It's not gonna, you can build that, you can have the nicest data catalogs and the nicest database and the nicest architecture pictures. It's not gonna fly. Yeah, and that is, if you don't have that, that is 90% of your time you have to focus on this to get the business to understand why it is so important that they own their own data. Thank you very much.